Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of a little interview. This could be a podcast, it could be on YouTube, it could be on all the different sources that we could be posting it on. But welcome to another Careerist interview. My name is again Sophia, and I have a guest with us, and his name is Brandon Cowley. Brendan, how are you doing today?
It sure is. That's me. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on today, Sophia. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about Careerist.
Yeah, same. So just a little overview. We're gonna kind of, we're curious about how'd you find careers? What do what were you doing before? And we're gonna also maybe see if you have any um, suggestions and tips for other people who are also interested, or if some people are hesitating. So we'll definitely try to get into as much as that, and kind of like overall where you're at now and how you feel about it. But before we go into all the career talk, I do like to get to know uh, people a little bit more personally before we talk about the present and stuff. So, tell me about yourself. What can you say? Like family, animals. What do you have going on personally?
Like, I'm a real person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, as you said, my name is Brandon. I currently live in Los Angeles, but I am originally from the East Coast. I'm a Boston guy, born and raised. So I still have a lot of loyalty back to my sports teams and everything that's Boston related. At the moment, I am, like I said, out in LA. I'm here right now. In the process of getting my wife actually moved up from Colombia. So that's currently on my to-do list. Outside
Nice.
of that, I am a big fan of, let's see, videography, photography. I have several art projects that I've worked on. I'm getting more into drone photography and videography recently. That's been
That's
a
super
new
cool.
frontier. It's hard to do well, but it is really, really fun.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, I like that you already just shared like some of the hobbies too and motivations of like what you're up to, what's your goals and plans. That's really cool. Um, cool. So now maybe we'll inch a little bit into careerist, like trying to find the best transition. I haven't done this
You take
again, like
this,
I said, in a
you
minute,
take this
but
wherever you want to go. I will take the lead. I'll follow your lead. There we go.
sounds good. Thank you. So, love to hear that, you've gone through with our boot camp, right? And now you're also working with us. But kind of like to run it back to the past, what were your previous careers like? What was your maybe like educational history like before us pretty much? What can you say about that?
Definitely. And I can say a lot about that. I've
Yeah.
tried many different things over my professional career. If you want to take the time machine way back, I went to college for athletic training. I had
Mm.
an aspiration to work with professional sports teams, and being a full-time athlete myself from probably the age of 5 until 20, I was very involved in not only physical development, but also treating people's injuries, making sure that they were able to perform as best as possible. I think that also comes from my mom being an occupational therapist as well. So I was really dialed into anatomy and physiology and how people work. So I was going to college for that. After college, I actually took a sidetrack into massage therapy and was doing that in a gym for a while before I eventually got onto my main track, which was personal training and fitness management. So I spent 10 years as a personal trainer, nutrition consultant, and a gym and fitness manager. So I was helping manage teams, organize with the sales department, actually open a couple facilities, which was fun. I did that for 10 years until I think I hit a ceiling. Personally, I thought there really wasn't much more growth there. So I made a switch over into the real estate world. So I was doing pretty heavy sales, consultations with clients, also mixing in some property management in there as well. And then along the way, just for fun, I've also tried out a variety of sales gigs, business development things. There were some tech startups that I was excited about, but that was all told about 15 years right there. So I think that most of the things I gravitated towards were either directly trying to help people improve their lives or trying to help them get set up for something that was good for their lives long term. I think that's where I approached the real estate and property management was everybody's home is important to them, right? It's the place that
Hmm.
you feel comfortable. It's where you spend the most time. And it also feeds into my enjoyment of architecture. So I think finding unique buildings, finding neighborhoods, getting into the culture there, that's really fun. Figuring out how do people click there? What attracts them to that specific town, city, neighborhood, things like that. So that was everything prior to getting into tech. And it was a long and exciting road.
Yeah, I mean, it was realtor work. Did that have anything technical to do with it at all? Was there, or was it just mostly like I know mostly it's people work and getting to know architectural things. Did you also like probably do like a course in that right before you began?
Yeah. So in order to do that, you do have to be licensed. So you have to
Right, right.
study pretty extensively for a real estate license. The
Mm-hmm.
job itself is, yeah, there's a lot of people service. You're getting in
Mm-hmm.
there. It's one part sales, one part client management. But then there's also a good chunk of the job that is actually advertising. People every day need to buy and sell homes,
Yeah.
but they're not just going to fall into your lap, right? So a lot of that was getting on site, doing photography of a unit or a house, editing the photos, putting them up on multiple listing sites, maybe running our own website, which we had a native website that we ran, but then we also advertised on the major platforms as well. So you do have to have, I guess, a personality that you're selling as well. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
you're managing listings, but you're managing the people that you're with, and then you're also having to put yourself out there on a billboard, so to speak. So it was
Right.
complex.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, it sounds like you were kind of exploring what you love and, people work and everything. So how is it that you found Careerist? Who introduced you? What I don't know, like where did you find out about us?
Definitely. I think I have maybe a little bit more of a unique path than some people do. And so, yeah, if you don't mind, I'll tell you exactly how that went.
Yeah.
I was getting to the point where I wasn't super excited about sales, and I wasn't super
Mhm.
excited about the just sort of having to rely on other people in order to guarantee a paycheck, basically. And
Mhm.
so as I told you, have extensive background in fitness and in the property management, but I didn't really see a path forward from there. I felt like I had pushed out against the walls as much as I was going to, and
Mhm.
I just didn't really feel like, okay, let's go find another job here. So I actually did a little bit of a deeper dive on myself. And there is a company, it's all over the country. They have research centers, but there's one right in downtown Los Angeles called the Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation. No plug for them. I'm not sponsored, but it was a place where you spend an entire day and they test you, not in an academic sense, but more figure out how your brain works, what interests you, and how do you naturally gravitate towards problem solving and things like that.
That's really
All
cool.
seemingly it is very cool. And seemed like it was
Yeah.
very unrelated to a job search. So I was
Uh-huh.
confused in the
Yeah.
beginning. It's like, can you put together this puzzle? Can you identify these music tones? At the end of the day, what happened was they took all of their findings and they put it into a graph chart and they said, based on the way your brain works, you naturally gravitate towards these things. And as a result, we think that you would probably find these career paths exciting. So that's a very long winded way of saying, I took some tests to figure out more about my brain, and they said, you probably would enjoy these things. Now, I'm graphically inclined and I have a really good memory for design. So the career paths that they had pointed out to me were videography, photo editing, web design, web developer, coding, and then also this little thing called QA. And I said, what is that? And the woman that ran the test, she was fantastic, but she basically pitched it as you get to tell people when their websites and applications are broken.
Hmm.
I said, wow, okay. So that's a very oversimplified pitch of what the industry is. But I said, I naturally find myself using applications, using websites, using everything in life, really, right? Anything that has a design and a control panel to it. And you know that feeling when something just works. You log into a new app and you log in and you're just like, man, this thing just makes sense. I like that. I really like that. So I had heard nothing about this and figured this might be an interesting path to explore. And that's what led me to start Googling around and saying, hey, how do you get into QA? What is it all about? Because I was still a complete rookie. And that's when I learned a lot about QA, but that's also when Careerist came up onto my radar for the first time.
Hmm. So it's from the research, from the tests. So basically, like, just for me to sum up of like what got you on this
Mm-hmm.
development or search or whatever is like you felt like you've hit like the dead ends or like of the growth, and you just wanted to pursue something greater. And from doing more kind of like personal growth and search of like what else am I capable of, like QA was like, oh, and QA is like one of these things, and you're like, what is this? But that's really neat. And so from searching out what is QA, you found us from like Google search and like, just web search, and we just showed up for you as advertised, I suppose. So what was the next process like? What was it like to kind of reach out to sign up? Did you do one of our webinars?
Yeah, and that's a very accurate way of saying it. It was, I think we can blame Instagram for this one. So there
Yeah,
was an ad
nice.
that showed up, and it said something along the lines of, "Do you want to get into tech with no coding and make at least 70,000 a year?" And that really hit the bullet points of what I was looking for. Again, with those test results, they were saying you might do X, Y, or Z. Frankly, I don't come from any technical background. I don't have a computer science degree. I didn't know
Hmm.
how to code a website. And I didn't want to spend years transitioning into a tech job. I wanted to spend weeks or months. And this really was a concise explanation of exactly what I was looking for. So I think that I responded to the ad and spoke with, I'd be lying if I said the name of the gentleman that I spoke with, but he presented the program really well, really straightforward, and just said, "Hey, if you want to do this, I think it's a good opportunity for you." I didn't feel pressured into it, which I think was nice. And then also the description of the program itself, having hands-on experience with people that have been in the industry for a long time. The program included an internship, which I thought was very important because there's a
Hmm.
big difference between, I think I make the comparison. You can read about pottery, but then actually getting your hands on the clay, you might realize it's a lot different. So
Yep,
I enjoyed the two-pronged approach there. And then also the salary sounded pretty good. So it seemed like the right
definitely.
fit. And there we went.
That's awesome. I had a question there. You spoke to someone and you didn't feel pressured about it.
Yeah, because coming from a sales background, I told you I
Right.
wanted to gravitate away from that. And this might not be everybody's experience, but maybe you have had this and I've had this. Anyone that has like a high pressure sales pitch to get into
Hmm.
something, I'm immediately turned off to it. I think if somebody
Yeah,
says, make a
it's
decision
pushing.
on the spot, you don't have time to think about your feelings on this, and I promise you it'll work out, just do the thing, sign right here. That doesn't
Hmm.
feel good. And I think if the program had been presented in a way that felt desperate, or it felt like you're wrong if you don't choose this, I think I may have been steered away from it. But it felt very friendly. It was just a conversation that I had with this person. And they said, "It sounds
That's
like you're
awesome.
interested. If you want to do this, here's a way to get in."
That's really cool. I'm glad you had a great like advisor for you who who presented in such a very well way, like from careers team and stuff.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, did you ever think any skepticism about it? Like, did you maybe talk to a couple of people about it? Like, did this feel like a big investment or a big pressure for you of like, or was it like, I have nothing to lose, like let's see what happens? Like, how was your thinking about it? Did you have to talk to your wife or things like this?
No. And so that's exactly what I was saying, that it didn't feel pressured. I didn't feel
Cool.
like I didn't really feel like I needed to bounce it off of somebody. Somebody might say this is a problem, but I oftentimes don't consult other people. I think, how do I feel about this? And go
Right.
on my own gut. But from an investment point, the price seemed very reasonable. From a time standpoint, it was very digestible. It was a fully remote program, a couple of months put into it. I could do this from anywhere in the world. It didn't. By comparison, there are programs out there that are tens of thousands of dollars to get into the tech industry. This was way below that. Also, the time frame felt better. So
Yeah.
between the two of those, it just seemed like, hey, if I want to try it, this is an excellent entry point.
Nice. So you lined us up with other competitors and you were like, this seems like the best option. Like the time, the price, it all seems good. Talking to advisors, have no pressure. Let's go for it. Another
Yeah.
question. So around what time was this? Like how long ago did you find us?
This was a couple of years ago, and I found the program over a holiday break, over like the Christmas break, and I ended up enrolling for a program that started in January. And at that point, I was actually traveling in between here and South America. So one of the great things about the program being fully remote and only having a couple hours a day to really invest into it, I was able to travel and continue the program. So I finished with the program around February, I think, of that year, and then got through the internship as well.
That's cool. So how was the process, the transition between the lessons? Like what do you remember about the lessons that you really enjoyed or, and then like the transition to internship and how was that for you?
So the classes were very digestible. I think that they made the content very palatable. It didn't use a lot of overly complicated technical jargon. It just felt like the instructors, and there was a variety of instructors, of course. They all came in with a good attitude, some sense of humor, and they were
Mhm.
able to present the material in a way that didn't feel like it was gatekeeping. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just felt like, hey, everyone can do this. You can do this. Let me show you
Mhm.
how. And I think the whole course is like 19 lessons. And then at the end of it, I think I did feel for a moment a little overwhelmed of, oh, now I'm actually going to be starting the internship. Do I have what it takes? And of course the answer was yes, because the internship was really well structured. It is, can you follow an instruction list? And if yes, then you'll be able to handle this. I felt the same way in the internship as well, where I didn't feel like I was talked down to.
Huh.
And there
That's
are
good.
some programs where it's saying,
Yeah.
tech is a very reputable place to be, and we want you to understand the value of what we do. So we're going to make it sound overly complicated. And this wasn't
Right.
that. This was we want you to learn. Here's a great way to do it.
Yeah. I know some people, well, many people, they hear about boot camps and they're still very unsure. Um, is just like learning remote and like on your own time and traveling too. Um, what would you say for people who are hesitant to with like their chaotic life and things like that? Was there a certain rule for yourself, or was it just pure discipline of like, I got to get through this? I see an end here. Like, a lot of people struggle with like these things if they don't have like when they're not in class, when they don't have a personal teacher right there with them all the time, or they're not with the
Mm.
students. Or was there plenty of help and communication that you were always comfortable with? What can you say about that, or advice for people who are maybe hesitant or struggling with boot camps?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that some people definitely have other aspects of their lives that might complicate things or create distraction. I don't know if I can speak to their experience specifically. For me, it just felt like there's a timeline. This is something that I signed up for and I'm expecting myself to do. I don't feel like there was a ton of pressure because it didn't interfere with my outside life. It's only a
Mhm.
couple of hours a day. And so these were evening classes that I was taking. And so I was still able to keep a full-time job at the same time. I think if you weren't working, I would say that you probably would want to set up a structured schedule for yourself. I think that having something predetermined for you helps with discipline. It oftentimes seems like if you have more time to, let's say, float or you just a bunch of downtime, it almost becomes harder to stay focused. So just create a schedule for yourself and say, these are the 2 hours or the 3 hours that I'm committing to this program today. You have the rest of the time to do whatever it is that you please, right?
Yeah. Was there ever
Yeah.
a time that maybe you felt like you were falling behind, that maybe you were afraid that you wouldn't be able to catch up, or you were like, this is super easy, just staying on
No,
track was fine?
no, I never felt overwhelmed. I've done other boot camps where there was just such a
Okay.
volume of knowledge to digest. You're thinking like, oh, how do I actually process this and hold on to
Yeah.
it? I think the timing of the QA program for Careerist was really well laid out. I never felt like I was lagging, and I never felt like we had covered a concept that I didn't understand.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well, I'm really glad you had that experience. That sounds like a good
Yeah,
time, actually. So
it was.
Yeah. Um, Now, to move a little bit along, what can you remember about your experience with the mentors? How they prepared you for with interview questions and the job search? How did that go for you?
That was a crucial part of my success, and I was very happy with it. So I had my mentor was named Anastasia, and she was very involved. I felt like that she cared. That was probably the most important thing, where she would actively check in. Hey, how's it going? Do you have any questions about this? Let's set up a mock interview. Let's take time to look over your resume or your LinkedIn. So I never felt like I had to chase to get attention for that.
Hmm.
And even though the internship is relatively quick, if you're thinking comparatively to other things that you could invest time in, it was pretty fast. But I always felt like she had my best interest in mind and would make good suggestions about how to present myself to an interviewer or how to set up my resume correctly. And within the internship itself, I feel like it was so long ago. I felt like it just blew by me, but I felt like she was always taking the time to check in and just making sure that I felt comfortable, which was really reassuring.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Nice. So, how long would you say your job search? What was the time frame between you got an offer?
I was relatively fortunate. My job search, my interview process and all that was pretty fast. So, and I tell people that this is not a guarantee that it can happen, but if it can happen to me with no special advantage, I feel like it could happen for someone else. So, from a numbers perspective, right? I put out about 300 applications, and
Mhm.
over the course of under a month was able to hear back from four different companies that I took interviews with. And from those four, I got two offers and took the better offer for my situation. One of them was 100% remote, and the other one wanted people to be on site. And at the time of graduation, I was looking for a life path that was more lending itself to a remote lifestyle. So I took the one that was fully remote. But just again, a quick recap, it was actually 24 days from when I started applying to when I actually accepted a job offer. So I feel like it was pretty easy.
Yeah, very fortunate. 300
Yeah.
applications. Wow. Would you say that our JAS program helped you out with that a little bit?
I would love to say that it did. However,
Ah,
that program wasn't available to me when I took the
wow.
program. It's a huge advantage to people that are in the program now, and if anybody signs up in the future, man, what an opportunity to do that, right?
Right, maybe they'll have
I did
500
everything.
applications, not 300.
Yeah, exactly. I did do it faster than I think a standard person would have gotten the job. But exactly like you said, I was going to say that that was me putting out 300 applications. If I had the
Yeah.
assistance of the JAS program, that could easily become 500, 600. And at the end
Mhm.
of the day, it's a numbers game. So you're only setting yourself up for success faster.
Yeah, that's incredible. But
Yeah.
yeah, that just shows how much more applications you need to put out there just to get just 4 offers, 4 interviews. For you
Yeah.
said 4 interviews, 2 offers you had, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 4 interviews, 2 offers. It's a numbers game. And I think that's not just the QA world. That's anytime you're on the hunt for a job. You
Yeah,
need to present yourself to as many people as possible.
yeah. That's really cool. Now, let's see. What can you say about your first job for us? How was that like coming in? And did you feel like you weren't sure? Like, did you have the imposter syndrome, if you know what that is, about it
I
going in?
I do.
Yeah.
I do know what it is. I think getting into my first position, there was too much to learn for me to get that feeling yet, but it
Okay.
did creep in. So when I first got my job, certainly to be expected, you're starting in a new industry and you have some experience, but you don't have years of experience to lean on. So I do remember thinking, oh, I have to learn a lot of terminology. I have to learn new systems. I have to learn what technologies they're using. So that does take some time. But I think that sort of mass influx of knowledge, you don't have the opportunity to feel worried or to feel that imposter syndrome. You
Hmm.
save that for later down the road. No,
Yeah.
but it was it was a good experience. I think that in technology, people are typically excited for what they're doing, right? They're working on new technologies. They're seeing things before they hit the market. They get to test things out that nobody's seen yet. And I think that there's some excitement that goes along with that. I was very fortunate to have really good team leads in my first position. So I had a good QA manager, I had a good project manager, and even my peers, they were all very excited to be there on a day-to-day basis as well.
That's super cool. That was actually one of my questions was like, how was your team? How was working your first job? What were your team leads like?
Yeah, it's not a field where I think I used the word gatekeeping before, but I don't feel any of that. And I didn't really feel any internal conflict as well. Everybody felt like they were focused on the same mission and they were looking for the same end goal. We have people from all over the world. So
Mhm.
not only do you get exposure to new technology, but you do get different people's perspectives, different people's cultures playing in. So the workplace vibe, if you will, or just like the culture of the workplace was really well rounded, a lot of really good personalities and perspectives on things.
So it sounds like the people aspect for you still there. You still get to work with people anyway, like in the team. But you were working remotely,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's all remote. Yeah, every QA position has been remote. And I don't think that it can be harder to build culture in an office
Mhm.
place if you're fully remote, but it's certainly not impossible. And I think that people just need to be aware of it's 21st century. We have
Right.
video calls, and you can hear people and speak with people and collaborate. It's just it's just a slightly different modality, I suppose. But the people were hugely important to that. That was also
Mhm.
probably why I got out of the property management and real estate field, was
Mm.
because you have a very short focused amount of time to work with a client, but then it's just sort of on to the next. I think in this field, when you have
Right.
a dedicated team working on a project, yeah, you get to know them. You get to hear personal stories, maybe meet their family, something like that. It feels much more inclusive.
Mhm. So, how do you feel now about the growth and the opportunity in this field? Have you now moved up in your career? Have you stuck with the same position, the same company, or do you feel like you have more possibilities through joining a career?
Yeah, very good questions. I'm still with the company that I started with. And in the time that I've been there, I've had significant pay raises and I've also had growth as well. So I'm now being tasked with larger projects. So sort of maybe taking a lead on an assignment as opposed to just saying, all right, well, you're one of the players, so to speak. And I think that's nice to have that amount of faith in me in a relatively short amount of time. So the company that I work for is pretty heavily focused on video products. And so I've learned not just how to do front end manual QA, but I've also had the opportunity to sit with the engineers and the developers and get a look more at the back end processes. That's not to say that I'm coding, like I don't have to manage code or push any repo work, but I do get to see, okay, well, what is the infrastructure here? How do we encode a video? How do we host it? How do we get it to a client? And it's cool to learn new things. I think you always have the opportunity to pick up stuff that's within the QA bucket, but then you also get to see things that are outside of that as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, so you still love what you're doing? You still wish to like keep
Oh
pursuing
yeah,
this for a while? Like this isn't one of those that
absolutely.
you feel like it's gonna maybe end soon or hit it.
I don't. No, no. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah,
I
yeah, go
don't
on.
think that there's any slowing down for manual QA as an industry, like in general.
Mhm.
More and more of the world is moving online. Everybody
Yeah.
needs a website. Everybody's probably going to be selling a product or hosting something online. And there's always going to be a need to check that before it goes out to the market. Nobody wants to launch a product without having tested it and say, well, I hope this works, because that's
Yeah.
that's not how this goes. So as more and more people hear about QA, I'm sure there's going to be more people in the industry, but that's equally balanced by the increasing need for it. I think that as it grows as well, companies get bigger and they might diversify, maybe have some more automation as opposed to manual QA, but you're never going to get rid of the need for manual QA. So I feel like I'll not only always have an opportunity, but more specifically, I think my company is very supportive of me and what I'm doing. So I don't see any reason to leave them.
Nice. Very cool. Happy to hear that for you. That's an amazing. I love when people
Thank
find
you.
something like that where they're like they love what they do. Like that I think that's like the the pursuit of like happiness for us is like, you know, you
Yeah,
want to love what you do. You want to feel like you're helping and, you know, making a
totally.
difference, taking over the world in some aspect, you know, just doing a little part, but like you're still kind
Yeah,
of you're doing it little by little in your own
absolutely.
little world. You're the main character of your own life, so it's really cool.
Okay.
Um,
Couple clicks at a time.
yes. Another very interesting thing. So I'm thinking back to how you ended up with you know, doing QA. And not ended up. I mean, you're doing this, and it's not an end. You're gonna, you know, keep going.
That's
But
it. There's nothing else.
yeah. I was also wondering, like, you did some tests. They tested you in some ways, and you at first it wasn't like, oh, this is for a career, but then they kind of turned around and were like, this is some careers that would be good for you. What would you say? What kind of people fit into the QA personality type people? Like, who could be doing QA? Like,
Ooh.
what can you say about that?
Yeah, that's a good two-part question, really. So, can anybody do it? I would say almost yes. Almost anybody can do the job. Again, you don't need to have any particular technical background. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to have a diverse portfolio of work, and you don't have to have a degree for it. So, from that perspective, yes, I think that it's accessible to many people. Some basics, right? You typically need to
Mhm.
be able to speak English. This is the majority of jobs are going to be here in the US. Um, you need to be able to work at a computer. So if you have
Yeah.
anything limiting that, that might be problematic. But I think that most people that I've spoken to since getting the job, people hadn't heard about the job of QA. So it still remains relatively new, I suppose, to
Yeah.
people. I think that once people hear about it, they probably would be excited, and they should be excited because it's a really nice opportunity. As far as personality traits or characteristics that make this a good job for people, I think it's let's give you a few things. So you probably need to be able to communicate well, not only verbally but visually, because an important component of the job is being able to liaise between what customer service reports as a problem from people, what you as a
Mhm.
QA determine as a problem, and then relay that to developers, and then be able to talk to product designers. There's a web of people that you need to be able to communicate with. So having good verbal skills, visual skills, written skills, those are certainly part of the game. And then you also need to have some empathy, because a huge part of QA is really thinking about the end user, thinking about the person that downloads the app or logs onto the website or uses this digital portal that you're working on. And you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, well, how would they interact with this? Not knowing the stuff that I know behind the curtains. So having that empathy to
Being
advocate for
intuitive.
people is, yeah, exactly. And think like, all right,
Yeah.
well, this is what it would be like in someone else's shoes. Um, and I think that the last thing would probably be attention to detail. It's a job where if you're not big on getting to know why something happens, like getting to know the why behind the what, then it might not
Mhm.
be a good fit. But I think if you are artistic or technical or just particularly appreciate the all the cogs in the machine, I think that that's a really good characteristic for people to get into this.
Thank you. That puts it very well together. I think that gives a lot of people an opportunity or like an in into QA. So, I mean, honestly, it is like for anybody because a lot of us are curious creatures. You know, we all like to
Sure.
explore and play with like a lot of different things. So, it's really cool. All right. So to move on a little bit on to the next part, or to a little bit of a close,
Mhm.
what can you say about I guess, the financial growth of it? Is it from being a realtor, from being in the health or in the sports, you know, the physical therapy, right? Or
Yep.
right, what
Personal
is it
training.
called?
Yes.
Personal training and things like that. So from all of that, how can you say financially you have grown and developed? Like, is there a lot of things that you know weren't able to successfully purchase that now you feel more financially free? Like, has that really made you feel like financially independent or free?
Yeah, from an earnings perspective, I think technology is one of the most lucrative industries to be in, and so certainly this fits the bill.
Yeah.
I made decent money beforehand, but I would certainly say that I've stepped up into this one. So there's a higher income as a result of doing this. I know in my first promotion within the job, they bumped my base salary up over $30,000. So that was a
Wow.
good opportunity.
Yeah.
From buying things perspective, yeah, like I always wanted a Tesla. So I was like, give me one of those.
Heck
But
yeah.
I think more importantly, it allowed me to have opportunities for experiences. So one of the things that I didn't know that I really liked to do was travel. So I think just in the last year and a half, let's call it year, I've been able to take like 6 different trips. So I don't think
Nice.
that opportunity was there for me when I was in fitness or real estate, because you're really tied to, or let me rephrase that, your income is dependent on your clients. So you need
Yeah.
to log hours. It's a direct cause and effect sort of thing.
Hmm.
Whereas technology, you're not tied to one geographical location. You can bring your desk with you, so to speak. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to travel places that I've been to and hold down a job still if I wasn't doing this.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Um, Definitely, I feel like more remote and more travel and more tech is the future for those who, I guess, like aren't imagining what's out there. But but also like it's really could be grateful for those that are realtors. We could be grateful for those who are staying there and logging the hours for physical therapy and stuff. But it's really amazing for those who kind of branch out, explore, and find tech. They're like, whoa, I didn't know I could do this, and now they're traveling and stuff. So great
Oh,
opportunities are still
definitely.
out there. So it's really
Yeah.
amazing.
And and that's, you actually said something that made me think, like, I'm not knocking that. Everything that I did
Yeah.
in the past was certainly incredible opportunities. I really loved what I did. I think that
Hmm.
just the love also came with a bit of a ceiling, and there was sort of a restriction of, well, what next? What else do you do here? And not really knowing the answer to that was what led me to branch out. But I'm glad you said that, because yeah, that's not to say those are unimportant jobs or irrelevant
Yeah.
jobs, because I had a fantastic time with them. But no, if you're going to be trading time for money, I don't think I would be able to do the things that I do now and have the experiences that I have. Just a great quick example, I was able to get married relatively recently, and to be able to fly to a different
Congratulations.
country. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to travel to another country and do that if I was having to be in front of clients all the time.
Yeah. Very true. Thank you. Very well said as well. So now would like to kind of ask you more about, well, I'm not sure if they're gonna fit this in here or not, but
Uh-oh.
you have
Uh-oh.
now come back to being one of our teachers, correct?
That is true.
So
That is true.
how is that? How did that come to be? When did the opportunity provide itself, and what made you take
I
this?
begged and I pleaded. No, what actually happened was, I think unsolicited, gave some feedback to some of the company owners. I had reached out to Max on LinkedIn. I had kept in touch with my mentor on LinkedIn as well, and just, I think it went from giving a couple of casual check-ins saying, hey, this is going well, I'm really happy, to really wanting to come back and pay it forward. So
Wow.
I think I had asked Max directly, and maybe one of the other instructors, but I had said, hey, just for what it's worth, this has been a really good opportunity. I really like what I'm doing. And I remember the feeling of being a brand new graduate, being done with the program, and having that what's next sort of feeling. There's the unknown in front of you. And do I have what it takes? What's the job really like once you're in the driver's seat? And I had asked them, I said, can I come back and talk to people about this? And they said, yeah, I'm sure we can find an opportunity for you. And then, of course, here I am. So obviously that shifted into yeah, of course, come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know it would turn into a full teaching opportunity, which is now what it has become. And I'm really happy to be able to talk with people in the program now. I thought it would just be sort of a one-off, like, hey, I'm happy to give a testimonial. But it very rapidly turned into, no, I remember this feeling of being the student and not really knowing what's over the horizon. So to give a real world perspective is really gratifying for me as well. And I've had people reach out after the program saying, hey, thanks for the boost in my confidence, or just a look behind the veil, if you will, to see, yeah, this is as good of an opportunity as it's being pitched as.
Yeah. No, yeah, and thank you so much for coming back to reaching out to us, trying to pay it forward for the next people out there who are also searching, who could be doubting, who might not be as
Of course.
confident. It's really incredible that you were like, no, let's try it, let's do it. You were dedicated, disciplined to it, and you came out kind of like better in the end. And you're like, I can help others as well. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a part of Careers as well, not only going through as
Of
one
course.
of our students but coming back and working with us as well. So very incredible story. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It was an
thank you.
opportunity that like I said, I think in the beginning, I didn't even know QA existed, right? This was a thing that
Yeah.
was completely foreign to me. It wasn't pitched to me in any high school career path things. So, and I think I said this, but if I talked to friends about it, or if I talked to family members about it, plenty of people still had no idea what QA is. So I think it's another opportunity for me to go out there and spread the word about it. But
Yeah.
also, if you look at it from the outside perspective, say you weren't in this field and say you weren't doing this interview with me and you'd never heard of it, I think if somebody came up to you cold off the street and said, "Hey, do you want to get a job in tech that doesn't require any coding and you don't have to do any sales and you can make six figures? And do you want to do that in the next 2 to 4 months?" It almost sounds like this fairy tale of like, yeah, right. Can that really happen? Now being proof of the product and saying, yeah, it absolutely can happen. I find a lot of excitement in going back and just reinforcing that message and saying, yep, yeah, this is real. And I'm a real person. So it can happen to you.
Yeah, that's very true and very cool that I mean you have this ability or like you have I guess like even talking to you honestly in this little interview, I do feel the energy of like, I feel motivated to even go through it myself when I work with careers
Yes.
too. So it's
Let's
like
go.
yeah. I first, working with careers, then I'm gonna become a student after. It's kind of reversed.
Absolutely. It's all full
But
circle.
yeah, yeah. But no, really, I think it's amazing to have students like you and have more people like you to come back and also be like, hey, I believe in this. Maybe come back if anybody is listening to this and you guys have been with us and are just coming back, seeing what's happening with careers. Like, would love to have you guys, on an interview with me or something like that, and would love to have you guys give us a little review or anything, honestly. Pay it forward, help others like you. If you're so open to
Definitely.
sharing and spreading, talking to your friends and family, get on over here. Like, we'll interview you. You could show this to them, you know? So for future, anyone else who's listening, who's watching, very, very great opportunities are still out there. And if you're a people person, if you'd like to give it back, this is one way. So again, Brandon, thank you so, so much. Loved hearing your story. Loved hearing, you know, how you began and how you went through, trying all those other things. And I feel like definitely like we both mentioned is like there's it's a journey, right? Like everything that you've done before maybe
Yes.
like prepared you to be in this position as well because that was a challenge that helped you work with people, and then now back around here you're doing something that's also challenging and you also came back and you're also working with people and helping others to do the same. So it kind of like created like a teacher mentor out of you for others. So it's a great full circle, and love to see it, love to hear it, love to talk to people just like you. So um again, thank you so much for coming today, and I think we are going to wrap this up. Is there anything else that you would like to share for the people out there? Any advice, suggestions, motivations that you could tell people before we wrap it up?
Well, I would say first off, thank you for having me. I think I can say the same about you. I can tell that you're excited about this and you're getting the word out about what it is that the QA is and how careers can get people in there. Uh, I don't know if I would say this. The short answer is if anybody's thinking about getting into this field or if you have doubts, the answer is yes. Like the answer is do it. So I think if I want to say that in a way that doesn't sound super cliched and like I'm a sales pitch for them, but it kind of is. I'm like, just do it. But then
Yeah.
I guess Nike would sue me. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about getting into QA, try it. Take the opportunity because it has changed my life. And I'm falling into this cliche feeling right now, but It is 100% worth it. I have found a lot of enjoyment in the work that I do, the people that I work with. And now I'm here talking with you and being able to reach out to future students and future graduates of the program. That's really exciting for me. So if I were to leave them with any maybe words of wisdom or pieces of motivation, is that if you're thinking about doing this, you can do it. You don't need to have a college degree that's pointed towards this. You made a really good observation about people's life experiences can help develop them and get them ready for this without it being directly in QA. So if you have people skills, if you have analytical skills, if you have problem solving skills, they can translate into a really exciting career here.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, we not only teach, we have internship for practice. Like you mentioned earlier, you try on the gloves, see if it fits, like you get to see if it's actually for you or not. We also have mentors who are going to stick with you until you find the job, help you with your interviewing, help you with finding the job, applying, making sure you sound great. And, even after, I don't know if I asked you if you reached out after, but we also have an opportunity for people who start working. If they're forgetting something, if they're still not sure, Careerist is always open to having you back for any questions, any help, any follow-up studying that you might need. Our teachers are always happy to assist you with anything, even on the job, as you were already hired, and we're here for you. So it's definitely a whole package.
I think I was the other side of the coin, not asking for help, but I was like, I don't know, proud kid that got their first homework grade. I was reaching out to my mentor, like, look, I did it. It's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's lots of different stories, so it's really great to hear like your side, as well as like you could be acing it, you could be really successful at it. So it's honestly for anybody. Not everybody has it easy, but it's you reach out. The help is there. We are here. So yeah, again, to wrap it up, thank you so much, Brandon. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us. And we hope you have a fabulous day. Bye-bye.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sophia. Take care.